let's talk a little bit about A-List Partners and why you're here. Hopefully you're here because you want to learn how to make higher yields on your money. And we're going to talk about how you can do that. So a little bit about me. Almost everyone in the room knows me. I've been in Texas. I'm an 8th generation Texan, #1. So I know my backyard. I know the demographics, I know the geography, and I know where to put money and where not to put money. Family's been here a long time, and we just, it's one of those traits, I guess it's in my genes or something, I don't know. But at any rate, we were Texans before Texas was Texas. We're very proud of that. And that's one thing I really like to tell people because it's important to me. I've been around a long time, been in Austin a long time, been in the real estate game for over 40 years. I've known a lot of people in this room almost half that time, or maybe a little more. And they've watched me work and build my relationships in Austin through real estate. Prior to A-List Partners, I was a managing partner for the Pride of Austin Capital group of companies. I thought I wanted to retire, so worked out a deal with my other managing partner that he would buy me out. So in December of 2014, I said hasta la vista, and that lasted 3 weeks. I was going nuts, and I said, well, what can I do? Unfortunately for him, he forgot to get me to sign a non-compete clause. So I called him up and I said, just out of courtesy, I'm telling you, I'm getting back in the game. So, and I'm back in it, and with more force and more powerful fund than the Pride of Austin funds. But at any rate, so my training, if you will, getting into the industry was through Pride of Austin. We got into A-List Partners, designed an interesting concept, and we have a lot of funds that we work with. One of them is our super fund, which is the one we're really going to talk about today. And it's our newest fund. So I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about how you can make money besides putting your money in the bank. That's another one of our lunch and learns. You really don't want to come to that one if you love your bank, because I really tear them apart. So we're organized like a C-suite organization. We think we're a big corporation, and we're getting there. But so here's basically my management team. Myself, as you know, Santiago, our Chief Operating Officer, back in the back there. Matt Benson, who's not here, is our Chief Strategy Officer. Matt comes to us. I've known him for a number of years. He used to be the Executive Director of the American Association of Private Lenders. He used to be a banker with Mutual of Omaha. He comes from a really strong finance banking background, and so I was very fortunate to pull him away from all that and pull him into our organization. He used to tease me years ago, I'm going to work for you one day, and well, here he is. But he's up in Kansas City and working with a lot of people in the Midwest, and it's kind of good because he has connections all over the U.S. as well as in China, which I really needed that part because, and I'll explain why in a moment, but he's got a huge network in China, and so I'm very happy that he's come aboard with us. Jordan has been with me the longest. My goodness, I mean, Jordan has been working with me for over 3 years. He's my youngest employee, but the most spectacular one as far as loyalty and the ability to get a concept and drive that concept to the closing table. And I really like that about him. He will be 23 in a few months, but so he may look like a baby, but let me tell you, that brain of his is a powerhouse. Jake is one of our newer employees. He came on March of last year, so almost a year with us. Jake's really good with details. I mean, if you have a detailed question about a property that we have in our portfolio, he'll know the answer. If you have a technology question, go to Jake. For those of you like me who are technologically, bankrupt in the mind, he's really good about that. But he's also a great research analyst. He comes from us with a degree in economics, which we needed that portion for our EB5 lending that we're going to be doing, or that we are doing. I needed an economic person with a mindset who could speak economic speak, because I don't have that background. But he comes to us from that, as well as a commercial property management experience. So I'm very excited to have Jake part of us. William, who's not here, is our property manager. He keeps all the properties in our portfolio going, basically keeps them clean, keeps working with all the vendors to make sure that the maintenance is done on time. We have some properties in our portfolios that are short-term rental properties, and he works with the cleaning service and scheduling the guests coming in and out of the houses. some people are not real fond of short-term rentals. I'm real fond of them, particularly since our last one that rented for $9,000 for the month down in San Antonio. So I'm happy about that. You know, there's a lot of money to be made in short-term rentals, and we have 2 funds that we're putting together or that have started that basically are focused on short-term rentals. So I'll go through those in a moment. Lance, we brought on as our Chief Business Development Officer. I've known him for a number of years. We used to sell real estate years ago, you know, even in the old RE/MAX days. So we have a history together, and he still wanted to work for me. I don't get that, but actually, I was one of his mentors getting him started in real estate. So he knows all of my idiosyncrasies and all of my buttons to push and what to steer away from. But he's really good. And under him, we've got Scott, who used to be with us for a while, and then he took another career path, but he's come back. Basically, he's our director of brand marketing, which is what he's real good at. And then also, we're hiring people who will be working with Lance as like salespeople, if you will, investor relations. And Deanna, who's not here, is our first hire. But she's a powerhouse young lady in her 40s, comes from a background of medical, working in doctor's offices as a surgery assistant, I think is what it is, cosmetology or what is it, cosmetic surgery? Yeah, that's her background. But she knows all these very wealthy plastic surgeons, and she can't wait to get after them. So we're excited to have her. So, you know, other people that work with us that are not on our payroll, we call them ambassadors. We have an international group of ambassadors, and we have a USA group of ambassadors. In order to be an ambassador with us, you have to not only talk about our program to other people, you have to bring people in front of us, and they eventually become, I mean, you don't have to sell them, just introduce people to us, and they eventually become investors in our fund. So they help educate the public about who we are and what we do, and we call them ambassadors because it gives them a little bit of relationship with us, and we're happy to have them, and we appreciate them a great deal. Let's just say it that way. But internationally, Kathy Nguyen, who's, I'm surprised she's not here. Oh, that's right, she's meeting with someone today. Kathy has a huge network in Vietnam, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, and England. Most of them are Vietnamese citizens, but she's also the president of the Texas-Vietnam Chamber of Commerce. So she's very well connected in that community. And then Mayron is one of our immigration attorneys that we work with. He's got networks in Dubai, Iran, China, Singapore, Argentina, Mexico, Brazil, and he works with us and introduces us to his networks there. And I'll go into why we do international travel in a moment. So our USA ambassadors, you know, the 5 that we appreciate the most, Barbara Diggs, who's been with us. Actually, Barbara was probably one of my very first investors years ago. Erilyn Hughes is as young as I am in the real estate community, and has incredibly huge network of realtors and developers and people involved in real estate. Saj, who came in today, he was one of my investors at Pride of Austin, and he eventually came over and said, well, let me come over here too. So we appreciate Saj, and Saj is out there telling people about us. We have 2 gentlemen in Utah, Mark Moody and Tim Wright. Mark's in Park Cities, and Tim is in Salt Lake City. We just got back from doing a presentation in Salt Lake City and Park City both. They had assembled a group of people for us to speak with, and we did, and it was very enjoyable. I didn't stay very long, but Matt and Jake enjoyed ski lessons and ski time. They're more snow people than I am. But for example, Mark was a ski instructor for the National Park Service and taught the skiers on ski patrol how to ski through the mountains of Utah. So I hope that they came back without any broken bones. So I'm assuming he did a really good job of teaching them, you know, how to ski in a healthy way. So let's talk about our regional center, which is it's our newest fund. And it's what I'm calling a super fund. And I'm really excited about it. It took me about a year to put this fund together through all the legal compliance jumps that I had to go through. We didn't launch it until recently, but it's filed as a Reg D Rule 506C security with the SEC, meaning only accredited investors. That rule is relatively new on SEC ruling. It means I can put a big billboard on top of a building if I want to and scream the name of it. Most private funds cannot be promoted publicly, but the 506C fund allows you to do that, basically. So we're excited about it. It's a $50,000 minimum subscription agreement to invest into the fund. And we do allow non-U.S. investors to come into the fund because all of our funds, we do a Regulation S overlay. A Regulation S overlay says that a foreign investor can invest directly into your fund without having to go through the rigmarole of registering with the SEC and setting up like a company here and getting a TIN number or EIN number for their company and having U.S. taxation reporting because they had set up an LLC or a partnership or some sort of corporation. It's just an easier process for the foreign investor to come into the program that way. We filed all this in July 1 of 2016, but we didn't open it up to investors until November. So it's a brand new fund. So we're not even in our 4th month, and I think we're doing fabulous. But that's just my personal opinion. Why is it a super fund? Because we set it up so that it has income streams from multiple sources of income. The majority of your Reg D funds are set up as mortgage pools or equity partnerships. This one is set up as a little more than just a mortgage pool. So our streams of income are, you're going to get income, or the fund will get income from making loans. So we charge generally about a 3% lender discount point on every loan we make. You have the interest that you're going to make on those loans, generally 12 to 14%. We're not cheap, but hey, there's benefits to having a lender like us. Participating in the management fees of the EB-5 securities, the way that this is set up is that our regional center fund is actually a regional center. A regional center is an entity that is filed with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, and a regional center is required in order for a developer to come in and allow for foreign investors to come through the EB-5 program to invest in their development project. But the regional center manages all that. So we've set this fund up as a regional center, and as far as my securities attorney is aware, we're the very first that organized a regional center as an actual security. So we're excited about that. But what that means to investors in the fund is that there's a lot of streams of income that are going to come into the fund where we don't have to put any dollars out to get that. Okay, so like for a loan, we have to loan out $1 million in order to get that 12 or 13% interest, right? Or that 3% lender discount points. But the way the EB-5 structure is, we're managing these sub-securities. So let's say that Joan wanted to build an apartment complex and she wanted to use EB-5 investors, and the numbers allowed her to bring 40 EB-5 investors into her development. So we set up a security that has only 40 investors in it. No one can invest in it but the EB-5 investors. So that becomes managed by this fund, and then part of the management fees of those EB-5 securities rolls up into this fund as income. But the fund didn't put any money out to generate that income. So it's really a great thing for our investors. Other streams of income include rental income from properties in our portfolio. As an example, I mentioned short-term rentals. So we're going to have a few short-term rentals in our portfolio that will generate income. But when you're generating massive returns where you're renting them for $500–600 a night, it's worth having, because it creates a lot of income. Participation in real estate projects that we finance. Sometimes we will allow the fund, or we'll negotiate the fund to have an equity participation or a profit participation in addition to the points and the interest rate that we're charging. So that increases our income streams or profitability into the fund. Equity participation in the EB-5 projects. We will probably negotiate a small percentage of equity in every EB-5 deal that we fund. And that's really important because it just, again, generates income, to the fund without costing us a dollar out of the fund. When we get around selling properties that are in the portfolio, then that profit belongs to the investors. It's not like we're creating another entity that we're putting these properties into, and then we become a borrower from the fund and then we keep the profits. There's a lot of funds that are established that way. I call those greedy people that don't have any business in this industry, but that's just my personal opinion. So we leave everything inside the fund and our investors benefit from that. We can rent our regional center to other developers who want to manage their own project. There's a cost involved to that. Again, it's income coming into the fund that didn't cost us a dollar out. And generally speaking, that generates anywhere from $25,000 up for the rental fee, plus $5,000 per investor that comes into their development. So if they have 100 investors, 100 times 5,000 is a substantial amount of income into the fund. Again, it didn't cost us anything to get that income coming in. Each of the EB5 investors that come into any of our securities that we manage also have to pay a $50,000 administration fee. That money comes into the regional center. So, and then there's miscellaneous income, depends on what it is, but those are our income streams. So it's a pretty powerful super fund that we put together. We're excited about it. 2016, November, December, and a few months before that, it's a good year for us. I mean, we ended up closing about $10 million in loans, had about $15 million in assets under management. 3 loans exited the portfolio already, which is good. I love it when there's payoff of loans. I was invited to be a guest speaker or a featured speaker at 5 top national events around the nation. It seems like I get hit on those every year. We'll be doing those same 5 again this year. Only the difference is I'm not going to speak at all 5. I'm actually sending Lance to the first one, March 2nd in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's going to be speaking instead of me because I will be in Vietnam. We have a pretty successful short-term rental program that we're excited about. It, again, creates income coming into the fund. And we have a pretty strong international presence and a growth. So I think for our baby year, we did really well. Those are just my thoughts. So what have we done since then? That's yesterday. So let's talk about what we're doing now. So 2017, again, I've already slated the 5 speaking engagements through the nation. And a speaking engagement not only sells our brand, it brings us investors and developers. So it's very important that we get out there in the public in different parts of the nation. So our speaking engagements this year are Scottsdale, Arizona, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Newport Beach, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and I think we're doing 2 in Fort Lauderdale this year. That's why I couldn't think of it. Yeah, there are 2. So we're going to Fort Lauderdale twice this year. Southern Florida is like a hotbed of investors, and there's an awful lot of international community that centers there. So there's no reason, there's no wonder that some of these event planners will put together an event in Southern Florida, and we're glad to go. I've already been scheduled to speak, either myself or someone on our team's been scheduled to speak in seminars in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. I'm leaving March 2nd for that. Mexico City, Monterrey, Cancun, all in Mexico, and Medellin and Bogota in Colombia. We've been asked to come speak to events that assemble investors and developers. And so we're excited about that. That's our speaking engagements for the year. This is what we've closed recently, or currently that we're working on. These are 4 loans in our portfolio, recent loans. I can't give you property addresses, but if you're an investor, you can ask us offline. I'll be glad to tell you, but I just can't speak it publicly. But these are the loan amounts that have been drawn down. These are all construction loans. Loan amounts that have been drawn down so far. We're excited to have these in our portfolio. As you can see at 16, 15, 15, and 12, these are lucrative loans. And that's why our investors love us, because we do great returns for them. Some other loans that are in the portfolio that have been drawn down on. And then we're raising capital for a close coming up, so that's why we have $729 in cash on hand in this fund. Now keep in mind, this is a 4-month-old fund, not even 4 months. So these are very healthy financials for a fund this young. We're excited of its potential. And then what we're working on now to close, is a $24 million EB5 loan to build a Westin up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're not doing the construction loan on that one. We're just simply providing the EB5 capital for that one. That's $24 million in EB5 capital. Why is that important to a developer? Because we only charge 6% for that $24 million, and it's basically cheap money. And it comes in not as a collateralized piece, but it comes in as preferred equity to the developer. So they really like that option when they prepare their capital stack for their large development. I think this is about an $80 million development, Lance? 82 million. So they're bringing in 16 million of their own equity, and the rest are borrowing. So we're borrowing, what, 40 million from a lender. So it's a 50% loan to value to finish their construction loan. Very solid developer. The sponsors of this particular package are very solid. They've been doing this a long time, very well connected, and their financial statements are they're beefy. So it's going to be an easy sell. One, it's a hotel, which the EB5 investors like. Secondly, it's from a very strong developer, so they feel confident they're going to get their capital back at the end of the project. And we like it because we're going to have very little problems with managing this for that developer. And we're also putting together a land acquisition loan on a property on the north side of the lake. We're closing that March 3rd, I think. This is just the acquisition loan. In total, it's going to be a $100 million development on 57 acres right there on the lake. Our EB5 portion of capital stack is $50 million. So we'll be quite busy doing a lot of traveling, talking to people outside the U.S. to bring that amount of money in. But it can be done. So let's talk about your money. All right? How many people have your money in your bank? How many people have your money in Wall Street? And how happy are you with your returns that you're getting? If you ever come listen to me talk about the banks, and Saj laughs about this, but my favorite thing to do is walk around and hand everyone a penny and said, how does that feel to be rewarded by your bank? Because that's about what you get for putting money in the bank. So we've been indoctrinated to think that banks and Wall Street are safe investment, right? But the reality is they're not good investments. I don't care how many, are there any Wall Street people here that sell that stuff? Look, the reality is you lose money over time. The only person that makes money off your portfolio is who?
Broker.
The broker, thank you. Even when you think you're doing well, okay, let's say you buy Ford stock and you're all excited, you got Ford stock and it's a good deal, it looks like it's going to go up. But the broker is already front-loaded 8% on top of the actual value of the stock. So the first 8% in appreciation breaks even for you. Got me? Brokers aren't free. That stock, if it's $100 and they loaded 8%, was really a $92 stock. Follow me? So you have to work and hope that it appreciates so that you have $100 in your basis again. And it doesn't always work that way. And then their favorite ploy is, okay, this stock isn't performing, and they call you up. Why do they call you up and want to move? They want you to sell that stock and buy something else. Why do they do that? Because they need to pay their bills that month, and they make a commission by another 8%. So, I mean, they are not really managing your money. They're managing their money. And you're just a vehicle for them to make money. So I can't stand Wall Street broker-dealers. I mean, there's, I'm sure it's wonderful for some people, but it's just not for me. Investing in private funds gets your money working. Okay, so you can be that little guy in the cartoon and just wave goodbye, or you can put your money to work. Right now, we're offering an inducement or an incentive. It's an 11% return on. It's a fixed 11% return on investment. For those of you that weren't here last month, we were offering 13%, and that was a very short inducement. But 11%, it's a 3-year term, $100,000 minimum, accredited investors only. You can add to that at any time during that 3-year period, and any addition that you add to your subscription agreement also earns 11%. And then at the end of your 3-year term, that 11% drops down to 10%. So you will always get a fixed rate of 10%, and the reason is because in our private placement memorandum, we have 2 classes of investors. Class A investors have a fixed rate of return of 10%, and this is an addendum or an exhibit to the PPM that allows for us to pay 11% for 3 years. And then our Class B investors that don't have a fixed rate of return, their returns are based on the profitability of the fund. Right now, there's only one Class B investor in the entire fund. That's me, because I love rolling the dice. So hopefully it's going to be very powerful. We'll see. I'll let you know in a few months whether it's a good choice on my part or not. But anyway, investing in private funds, whether it be our fund or someone else's fund, you're still in Pride of Austin. They're like in that 10-12% range.
Yeah.
They've stabilized, right?
Between 11 and 12.
11 and 12. Really good, well-organized funds are going to return that kind of return. It just depends on how you feel about the managing group that manages those funds. But most of them, at least in Central Texas, are going to have similar returns. I know almost all the fund managers in the area. Some of them I really like and respect, and a couple of them I don't. But they're going to all have about the same return. Ours is fixed, contractually fixed. And the reason we did that is because there's a lot of family offices and a lot of retired people who just want to know, I get a fixed income. They don't want to have to worry about, what did I make this month? We pay monthly distributions on your return. You can either take that out in cash or you can reinvest it. If you reinvest it, I'm not going to run the numbers for you now, but it's substantially more than 11% return. Probably pushing a little above 12% would be your annualized return over 3 years. But I'd be glad to run the numbers for you if you wanted to talk offline privately. Or you can do a 10% annualized return at a $50,000 minimum. Again, that's a Class A investor in our fund. Or you can be a Class B investor, and we're targeting that 8 to 15% return. So I just had to put myself in there just to see what it was like. I wanted to, so I could have a history to tell people, yeah, here's what I'm getting on annualized rate. I'm sharing it with you. But that also is a $50,000 minimum investment, 3-year term. But the difference is not only you're getting 80% of the net profits that are split among the investors. So how that works in this fund, we treat your Class A investors as your first preferred, if you will. They're paid first, and then whatever is left in the profitability is calculated for your Class B investors. It could be high, it could be low, but it's going to probably be in that 8 to 15% target range. If you don't want to put $50,000 into a private fund, we have another fund that is a $10,000 minimum. It's our real estate investment fund, the REI fund. What it does is it does a lot of lending. It does its own fix and flips inside the fund. It does new construction inside the fund, mostly residential. It doesn't really have any commercial properties. It's a smaller fund, $10,000 minimum to get into that fund. But it would give you an opportunity to kind of understand how private funds work. There's some people, a lot of our investors in the REI fund basically moved their money into the regional center fund once we launched it, because they had a good history with us, they were comfortable with us, and they just felt like that they were ready to go to the next step with us. But you could do this one. It's an 8% preferred return, which means that 8% is paid on a preferred basis to the investors, and then it's 70% of the profits thereafter. Pretty strong fund. This one was launched in 2015, April of 2015. So, but if you don't want to go that route and you're still thinking, well, give me some other investment opportunities that don't cost me very much money to dip my toe in and build a relationship with you. Here are 4 funds. These are called 504 funds. Basically, we put these up here because we're one of the very few funds that has actually built our own crowdfunding platform. Millennials love to sit around and look at their computer and make financial decisions based upon what they read. This is really geared for that mindset. Anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 minimum. Our first 4 funds we're launching is A-List Partners Costa Rica, which is basically, its first project is building a 23-door boutique hotel in Las Catalinas in Costa Rica. Our equity fund, which would be to participate in equity positions in some of the bigger developments that we do in the larger fund, so they could become an equity player in our other funds. Our technology fund, it's run by millennials who are all into technology, so they're raising money to invest in technology. Great, I'm excited about it for them, not for me. And then, and then our residential construction fund. This is a smaller fund. We have a couple builders in town that merged together. They're raising money through this fund so they can do their own, basically finance their own projects. The way these funds are structured is you get a 5% fixed rate of return as an investor, but 5% on $5,000 is a whole lot better than that penny from Wells Fargo, let me tell you. And then you're going to some profit participation. These funds are limited to a $5 million a year raise. So that's the SEC rule, that you can only raise $5 million a year. It's perfect for entrepreneurs, small, it really is. It's a great opportunity for them to raise their own equity or their own financing for their own projects. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that could use this, and so that's why we launched it. So we manage these funds for them. We put it on our platform. We help them raise the capital they need through crowdfunding, and then help them stay compliant. We're like mentors to them, making sure they stay compliant with the SEC and with any other state securities offering that they may be involved in. All of these are federal offerings. We help them with their accounting, we help them with their investor relations, and we help them with their capital raise. So we're excited about that. And then our newest one that, some of you have been with me a while, and you may have looked and go, where did Matt Vavala go from our management team? Well, when someone's been with me a while and they show me intense loyalty, and even though we get into a lot of disagreements about stuff, their heart is still in the game, and they know their job really well, and they're aggressive, and they really want to move up the ladder. We just create positions for them. So what we've done is we've taken Matt and we started an A-List Partners North Shore, and he, along with Dr. I can't say his last name, Apaku, anyway, Dr. O, that's what I call him. They are going to be managing members of this LLC, and this is the 57-acre development on the North Shore of Lake Travis. We're doing a capital stack of $50 million from EB5. We're raising capital of maybe up to $40 million. We're not sure, and we're doing that through people buying equity shares at $1,000 per equity share. So if you had an extra few $1,000s laying around and you wanted to put it into this would be a great opportunity to do it. This particular one's going to have 82,000 square feet of commercial space, about 400-door multifamily. We're not sure if we're going to do multifamily or condo. We hadn't made that decision yet. We're still waiting on the business plan writer and the economist to give us our best use of that particular tract of land. 20 townhomes. There's a little sliver of that land that's perfect for little 20 townhomes, luxury townhomes on the north side of the lake. 150-room hotel pad site. We already have a flag that's looking at developing that for that hotel. Hike and bike trails and other amenities. Matt's not here. I would invite him to share a little more of the vision. We do have a full executive summary on it, and if you want to email one of the team members, they'll be glad to send that to you. Our phase 2 of that one is a 100-slip marina. The slip's already been approved by LCRA for 100 boat slips, and it will have like a restaurant / clubhouse / convenience store kind of thing. Yes, John?
What is a slip?
Where you park your boat.
Oh.
I'm not a mariner, so you pull your boat in and you tie it off to a dock. That's your slip. Yeah. So it can accommodate 100 boats. So you lease those out, so it becomes rent income. And it's a deep water part of the lake, so sailboats could actually be warehoused or parked there. So yeah, I'm excited about that because there's just not enough boat slips on Lake Travis, you know. But that's our phase 2 of that particular one. If you have questions, I'll be around for a little bit and be glad to answer them. Thank you. Mhm.